was a rumble in the jungle. Once I heard Dad was outside again counting birds, and Mama plugged in a nightlight, and I saw the queen of the world.
Welcome to the Golden Hour Birth Podcast. I am your host, Liz, and I'm your other host, Natalie. And tonight we have our friend Caitlin on, or Katie, if you prefer.
Either one.
Perfect. And she's going to tell us her birth story for her daughter, Leah. So, Katie, if you just want to go ahead and tell listeners a little bit about you and your family.
Okay, so first, if I sound like a prepubescent boy, it's because I'm just getting over something and I'm getting my voice back, so there's that. So I met Ryan in 2014 because his cousin married my best friend, and I grew up with his cousin. We all went to the same high school, and my best friend hated my ex, and she's like, Corey's got a cousin. You just need to meet him. He's from South County. I'm like, I don't do city boys. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I need somebody that can work on a truck. She's like, but he is. He just lives up there. I'm like, no, thank you. I'm okay. And then she had her bachelorette party. And so I went over there, and then, because my car was broke down. So she had to come get me. And then we're pulling up, and she's like, oh my, by the way, Ryan's also staying the night. I was like, oh, perfect. And then we pull up, and I was like, who's working on their truck? And she's like, Ryan. I'm like, he works on a truck. He knows how to work on trucks. That's his truck.
I told you.
She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And then I found out he's a twin, and I'm a twin. So I was like, oh, God, this ain't going to work. We can't risk it. We can't ever have a family because there's going to be 17 of us. I can't do it. But we met, and he actually caught the garter, and I caught the bouquet at their wedding. We weren't the next ones. We're the ones after that. We're the ones after that. But we did get there. So we got married in 2020 towards the end of the year in October. So, and down in my hometown where everybody's like, COVID who? So it wasn't like my sister-in-law's where she had to like postpone. Thank God I didn't have to go through any of that. Mm-hmm. And then we didn't plan on having Leah. She was a wonderful surprise. Chris and Hannah, Ryan's brother, they were expecting their first. And then after her baby shower the next week, I was just like, I don't know. I think maybe I should take a test. And he's like, okay, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay, yeah, absolutely. So I go and take it, and I was like, oh, that's a really faint line. No, I think we're good. And he's like, Katie, I don't think so. And I'm like, no, it's fine. It's like really faint. You can barely see it. Like, I feel like if it's positive, it's going to be like, I'm positive. And he's like, Katie, I know. Like, no, we're fine. So I FaceTime my friend, and I'm like, hey, like, we're good, right? And she's like, honey, no. And I was like, what? And she was like, so I would go get a digital, but how are you feeling? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I mean, are you excited? Are you nervous? I'm like, I'm freaking out. So there's that. And she's like, go have Ryan get a digital. I was like, okay. So he goes and gets the digital because I didn't want to go because God forbid somebody see me. Like they wouldn't connect the dots if Ryan was picking up one, but whatever. So we take that one, and I put the timer on, and we're watching TV, just trying to pass the 5 minutes, because that one's got to be 5 minutes. And we're sitting there, and I'm like, okay. And then it goes off, and he runs to the bathroom. And I'm like, okay, what's to say, Ryan? And he's like, are you positive you want to know? I'm like, yes, do not play with me right now. And he's like, but are you positive? And I'm like, Ryan, I swear if you don't tell me. And he's like, are you positive? And I was like, Ryan, oh my gosh, we're going to get divorced. We haven't even been married a year. What are we doing here? And then he like showed me, and it was positive. And he was ecstatic. He was like, we're going to have a baby. And I was like, no, I'm going to have a baby. And I was like, you're going to be a dad, but I have to grow and birth a baby. So there's that. He's like, it's fine. So I'm crying. I'm like inconsolable because I don't know. Like, I acted like I was 16 and I just found out I was pregnant and I had to tell my dad. Like, I did not handle it well. And then I was like, okay. And I don't know anything. Like, I lost my mom 4 years ago. And I don't have any sisters. I have 5 brothers. Like, I don't have any girl cousins. I'm the only girl in my family. I have aunts, but, like, I'm the only girl.
Mhm.
So I was like, I don't even know. Do I take prenatals now? Do I, like, is that something you wait? Like, oh, we got to make an ultrasound appointment. I didn't know you could do a blood test to, like, confirm your pregnancy. I had no idea that was a thing. So I waited a month. And then we were just, wonder if it was a false positive. I wonder if, like, it's real. Like, I don't know. I guess we'll see. So we waited a whole freaking month. And then we didn't want to say anything to anybody because Hannah was due with Benji. And our first appointment was her due date. And so I was like, man, this is going to be super awkward if we run into him there. Like, yeah, well, she's getting induced. So, or she's going to be at the hospital. And then she ended up getting induced.
Mhm.
And so we didn't run into him. So that was cool. And so we decided we weren't going to tell anybody until after everybody got to meet Benji and got their love-ins. And then we went on the 21st. And they were like, yeah, it's a baby. And I was like, is it just one? She's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, he's a twin and I'm a twin, so I don't know the science, but I'm just assuming it's not well. She's like, oh, honey. And then she's like looking even further. She's like, okay, just one.
Let me
She's
double
like,
check.
I could change the next one. I'm like, what? And she's like, I mean, that's like, we could find another heartbeat at the next one. I'm like,
Oh.
okay. And she's like, it's completely fine though. Like, it's one heartbeat. I'm like, for now? Okay. So we go and we tell, our families, and everybody's super excited. And Chris and Hannah, like, lost it. Ryan wanted to tell them, like, well, immediately, but he wanted to tell them because Debbie, his mom, has like one of those photo frames that plays pictures. And so he put a picture of the ultrasound on there. And then Chris and Hannah came over and he was like, look at that. And they thought it was their sister because she just found out she was pregnant. And Chris was like, oh yeah, it's Kayla's. And Ryan was like, what? I'm like, oh, we didn't think that through. we didn't think that through. So Ryan got the ultrasound picture out and he's like, Chris. And then they were like, oh my God. Hannah's like, I'm gonna cry. She's like, I'm emotional. And then Chris was like, this is amazing. So Ryan was super stoked. And like, him and Chris were gonna have babies like within a year of each other, so they're stoked.
No.
I was like, yeah. And then I feel like I got huge immediately. Like, I was huge. I just felt like a balloon. But I don't know, we had like a walk in September for our friend, and we thought it was a mile walk. We're like, okay, yeah, we can do that, no problem. And so it's like a 3-mile walk, 3.5-mile walk. And so we got halfway through it before we found out it was extra long. And I was like, oh my God.
In the summer.
I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I was like, even if we turn around, it's the whole
still
thing.
another mile.
And Ryan's like, okay, so we just like take it slow. And I felt like Leo was just going to fall out. Like, it was like she was in my hips, just trying to swim her way to the bottom. And I was like, I hurt so bad. And Ryan's like, do you need something? I'm like, I don't know. I'm dying. And he was like, okay. So then we got home and we called the doctor and she's like, okay, yeah. So just put your feet up. She's like, it sounds like maybe round ligament pain. And then she's like, does it hurt to roll over? Like if you put all your pressure? I'm like, yeah, I can't roll over at night. She's like, it's round ligament pain. And I'm like, that sounds horrible. Great. That's perfect.
I had that. It like snapped one night. Like I heard like an actual snap. And my chiropractor was like,
God.
oh yeah, you got some round ligament stuff going on. There's like a muscle just right there.
I didn't know that it could snap. Thank God I didn't know that.
Thank God it didn't snap for you.
No. God, did that hurt? I feel like that would be extra. Oh,
it hurt.
Ooh. On a scale of 1 to 10, that's a no. So I got off. I had anxiety and depression before I got pregnant. And then I'd gotten off my medicine during the pandemic, which is weird because everybody else was getting on it. But I was secluded, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no people. I bet I can do it now. And so I got off my medicine, and I was able to stay off it. And then I was, I don't know, a few weeks from 20. So I was either a little before 20 or a little after. And I was just crying all the time and didn't know what to do and was just so depressed and couldn't fathom, like, doing simple things. And I was like, okay, so I think, like, it's back. And Ryan's like, do we need to get medicine? I'm like, no. I'm good. Like, I'm pregnant. I can't. And so at the next appointment, she was like, are you okay? Is everything fine? Like, you do have a history, so we're keeping an eye on you. And she's like, and we'll keep a close eye on you after. And I was like, oh, okay. Ryan's like, she is not. she's not okay. No, she's not okay. I'm not okay. She's not okay. And it's making me not okay because she's driving me nuts.
No.
And so they were like, okay, we'll give you this medicine. It's going to help your anxiety and calm you down and let us know. I was like, okay. So that helped. Thank God. Because we were poor Ryan.
Yeah. That's good that he spoke up too, because I know a lot of husbands or partners like want to leave it up to you to seek help, and as pregnant people, we're scared of taking drugs, when you're pregnant, but there are safe, medications you can take.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
it's good.
I think like a lot of like first times dads too will be like, whatever she says, like I'm on board with that. So that's awesome that he was like, no.
Yeah. And no, that's Ryan. He just always speaks his mind. And then I was crying in the parking lot. I was like, this is not how I wanted like this to go. And he's like, but it's like what you need to do for her to be okay.
Yeah.
He's like, if you're not okay, she's not okay. And I need you both to be okay. And I was like, okay. So before when we found out, or when we were waiting to find out, because I'm impatient and I'm not waiting for the 20 week. But I'm also cheap, so I'm not paying the extra to find out at like whatever it was.
Genetic.
No, I'm like, is there a happy medium? And so I'm the last one of my friends to have a baby, and they're like, you can go here, and Hannah's like, there's a place, First Impressions, you can go there. So I called, and they're like, yeah, absolutely. So I go, and everybody had been asking me, like, do you have a feeling what you're having? Do you have a feeling? And I'm like, a baby? I don't know. What? Like, I didn't know it was a thing. And so I was like, I don't know. And then everybody around us had boys. There was 5 babies born in 1 year on Ryan's side of the family. All of them were boys. So everybody was, are they going to have a boy? Ryan wanted a boy because everybody was having a boy. And then like a week before, I was just like, Ryan, don't be mad at me. But I just have a feeling that we're having a girl. And he's like, well, I guess we'll find out. And then we got there, and she was like, so you are 1,000% having a girl. And she was like, there she is.
Aww.
And then she was like, oh, she just peed. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, that happens.
It's so special.
Just such a memorable moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right, perfect. Then we told, Ryan loved asking everybody, like, what do you think we're having? Like, we go to his mom's every Wednesday, and it just so happened that was a Wednesday, and his family was there. So he's like, what do you guys think we're having? And everybody said boy. And I think maybe his sister said girl. And then Ryan's like, we're having a girl. And Benji was, just itty bitty then. And he just starts crying immediately. And Hannah's like, well, he's not excited, but it's okay.
We'll get there. Yeah,
He'll come around. Let's see. Like the whole time, she was like towards the end, the 3rd trimester, my doctor's like, I don't think you're going to make it to 2022. I think you're going to have her in 2021. I'm like, okay, cool. She was like, you're already dilated. You're thinning out. Like, and this was at the beginning of December. And she was 6 pounds at the last ultrasound. So she's like, healthy little baby. She might be 7 when you have her. I'm like, okay. And then, so we just didn't, we were just hoping that we wouldn't make it to January. And we're just waiting. And I never felt contractions. And I'm like, nope, she's fine. She's not coming. It's not happening. It's not. No, she's fine. Ryan's like, well, I don't know. And then I was 39 weeks, I guess. And I was super swollen. Like, I had to buy, like, potato shoes. I know there's a different name for them. Birkenstocks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I had to buy new shoes, too.
Yeah.
I couldn't fit in anything. Just had to buy those. And then, like, because I had to wear black shoes at work. And so I'm wearing yoga pants, a pullover, and black potato shoes. Then they got even bigger, and I didn't know you could unbuckle them to make them bigger. So thank God Ryan did. So I'm like, if I go any longer, I'm not going to have shoes. And I'm going to have to walk around barefoot, and I don't know what to do. And I hate being barefoot. We can't do this. And it was the day of when I was like 39 weeks on the dot. And I was just so swollen, and Ryan was pushing on my leg, and he was like, so is that normal that it's like staying like that? Because our friend, Amy, she had a baby a few months prior, and they admitted her because she was so swollen, and she was like leaving indents in her skin. So I texted her, and I was like, hey, like, I'm sure I'm fine, but like, what were your symptoms? Like, do I need to be worried? Because I'm also not a doctor, so I don't know anything. And she's like, well, so I sent her a video of me pushing on my leg, and she's like, oh, honey, you gotta go. You gotta go. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then, so we called the nurse hotline, and she's like, well, you could just be really swollen. If it's not better by the morning after you've been off your feet and all that all night, come see us. So I woke up, and first thing Ryan did was check my legs, because Ryan plays like this hard ass type, but he is a teddy bear, and he's just like the strongest guy I know, but there's only been a few times where I've seen him get upset or worried, and he was like worried. And he was like, we gotta go. I gotta see like what's going on. So we go, and they check us out and hook me up to the machine, and she's like, do you feel that? I'm like, what? And she's like, you're having contractions. I was like, oh, no. I was like, so I guess they're not like intense, right?
Yeah.
She's like, no, but I mean, they're getting there. I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, it's okay. Like, sometimes you don't feel it this early on. Okay. So they sent me home. They were like, you just swollen. Go home. I was like, okay. So I go home, and that weekend was New Year's, and we go to my friend's house, our friend Sam's. And while I was walking down the front steps, I was like, ooh, Ryan, something's happening. And he was like, ooh, is it happening? I'm like, no, it's not happening. Something's happening. And he's like, what? I'm like, I don't know if this is a contraction or round ligament pains. I don't know. I'm like, but it's intense. He's like, okay. And I didn't take any birthing classes because, again, I'm cheap. And they wanted like $100 or something. I'm like, I can watch YouTube, which I didn't do either. And so I was just like asking my friends who have been through labor, like, I don't know. I just relied on them a whole lot. Like, Hannah probably got annoyed. I was texting her all the time, like, hey, just curious. Like, this is happening. She was like, it's okay. I'm like, great. Perfect. Love it. And so we're going to our friend's house. And there was a couple times in the car that I'm like, okay, I think these are contractions. And then we get there, and Ryan's like, do we need to go to the hospital? I'm like, no, I don't know much, but I do know they're not consistent. So that's a no. And he's like, well, what's consistent? I'm like, well, not this. So I'll let you know. He's like, okay. So I had like, I don't know, 5 more just randomly. And that was it. That was the end of my contractions. I never had another one. I was like, perfect.
Wow.
So then my due date was January 6th, and that was a Thursday. My car was broke down. Yeah, my car broke down, and I had to be at work at 7:30. Drops me off at 7, and I'm just miserable. I'm just angry. Nobody wanted to talk to me, but everybody wanted to ask me why I was there. Oh my gosh, you're here? Isn't today your due date? That's crazy. Oh, isn't it crazy? Get out of my face. And then there was an email that went around, like 3 people had COVID. And I'm like, this is my sign. I'm done. Start maternity leave. See ya. So I called Ryan. I'm like, hey, come get me. He's like, what? I'm like, no, people have COVID though. And I'm just I'm not doing it. Because, like, A, I just didn't want to be at work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And B, like, I didn't want to risk me getting it and then giving it to Ryan.
Yeah.
Like, regardless, I have to be there. But I was worried they'd be like, no, you have symptoms, you can't be here.
Yeah.
Because then I would have just lost it.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, we're not doing this. And so then they made the appointment for the 7th to check my fluids. And she's like, yeah, fluids are good. Baby's healthy. Everything's fine. I'm like, how big is she? She's like, oh, we didn't check that. We just checked the fluids. Okay. And my doctor was on vacation because isn't that how it happens?
Yeah.
But I was like, that's fine because whoever delivers my baby, 90% sure that they've delivered other babies. So it's not like Ryan's just delivering my baby, like our baby. And so she's like, have you guys talked about induction? I'm like, no, not really. I just kind of wanted to go on my own, but I started maternity leave yesterday, so. And I'm so swollen. I'll go today. Like, I'll go right now. Do you want us to go right now? I'll just go across the street. We'll just do this. And she's like, I'll be right back. So she comes back and she's like, I can get you in a night. I'm like, oh, that was fast.
Perfect. Not playing around.
Like, you're serious. Okay. And I just look at Ryan and he's like, whatever you want. He's like, do you want to go tonight? I'm like, tell me what to do here, Ryan. He's like, it's on you. I'm like, don't you have work or something? He's like, it's Friday, Katie. Like, he probably was just thinking, like, what is she doing?
Oh.
But I was like, okay, yeah. She's like, it's not going to be at, like, Mercy South. It's going to be at Big Mercy. And I was like, okay. So she's like, we'll call you around between 8 and 10. So rest up, pack your bags, eat. We'll call you. I'm like, okay. So we got Olive Garden because I love pasta. And we dropped, we called our friend who was supposed to be watching our dogs while we're gone in the house. And we're like, hey, Kitty's getting induced tonight. Can you come over watch the dogs? He's like, absolutely, man. Yeah, I'll be right over after work. I got to get out of here anyways, though. You know, roommate's got COVID. We're like, hold up. Pump the brakes. You can't come over here if you've been exposed to COVID. We're going to be bringing a newborn.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a good look. Can't do that. So he's like, oh, yeah, no. I just wanted you guys to know. We're like, okay, thanks. So we called Ryan's mom. We're like, can you watch the dogs? Like, this fell through. She's like, absolutely, bring them over. So we brought the Olive Garden over there with the dogs. We had dinner with my mother-in-law. Chris and Hannah came over, and it was just like a laid-back night. And then we dropped our dogs off, and I was crying because I'm like, this is the last time. Like, they're our fur babies. This is it. And Ryan loves dogs, so I know he was feeling it.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's okay. Moose, Rizzo. He's like hugging the dogs. And then Hannah's like, oh my God, next time I see you guys, you're going to have a baby. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to have a baby. And so we go home. I pack all my stuff. And I'm like, okay, we're good. Let's do this. And Ryan's like, I'm going to stay out for a little bit. So I go to bed at 9:30. And oh, wait, no, they had called while we were eating dinner. And they said, we're running behind. We'll probably call you at like 5 in the morning. Just go to bed like normal, and we'll call you. And I was like, okay. So we weren't in a rush to get to bed early. So I go to bed at 9:30. Ryan goes to bed at 10. And like we both just doze off. And my phone goes off at 10:30. And she's like, we're ready for you.
Oh my God.
And Ryan's like, can you like postpone?
I know. Can I go back to wrong number?
He's like, tell them we'll call them.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. So we get up and we're like, wow, we're just never gonna sleep again.
Nope.
That was our last night.
Oh
we
my
didn't
God.
even get it.
I would be so mad.
Oh my God. Ryan was like, we have to go now. I'm like, we have to be there like within an hour or two. And he's like, all right, let's go. But like, I'm so much about pictures and memories. I'm like, Brian, wait, before we go, let's get a picture. Just get a picture of my belly the last time. He's like, okay. And then he parked in Expectant Mothers. And I was like, okay, take a picture of me by it.
I love that.
Like, okay. And it was, of course, the coldest night. It had been, like, tolerable. But, of course, the night that I'm going to have a baby, it's the coldest one on record. Of course. So we get in there, and they check us in. And my voice is cracking.
I just like cough or like laughed, and it was so loud from the cough also. So you might need to just like cut that out, volume down it.
We get in, they check us in, and then they take us to the delivery room. And they're like, okay, get in this gown, and we'll be in. And I'm like, okay. Like, me and Ryan have been together 8 years. He's seen me in, like, pretty much every situation there is to be in. Like, every high, every low. But right then, I was super self-conscious. And I was like, oh, you want, like, all my clothes off? Under the... Okay. Yeah. No, just the gown. Just the... Okay.
Just this
Yeah.
gown with no back to it.
So I go in the bathroom and I change, and I'm trying to hold it together. And I'm like, right. We tie it. He's like, I don't think you should be, as concerned about them seeing your back, but okay. And I was like, okay. So he's just like, when I walk out, he's just sitting on the couch, like, just so proper, just like looking around. And I'm like, you okay? And he's like, yeah, you okay? No, I'm good. I was like, okay. So then they come and they hook me up, and they're like, we can't get a steady read on her, so we can't start Pitocin right now. And I was like, okay. And they check me, and they're like, you're at 4 centimeters.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay.
Perfect.
And then she did not like when I was laying on my right side. And that was the side Ryan was on, so I wanted to be on my right side so I could be like, tell me it's okay. And so they were like, you gotta roll on your left. So I did. And then they finally get a good read on her. They're like, we're gonna start Pitocin. This is at 1:30. And so they start that. And then I fall asleep. And I was at a 5 when they started the Pitocin. And then fall asleep, doze off a little bit, and at 3, I woke up and I'm like, feeling something. Really feeling something. Okay, it's happening. Like I said, I didn't do birthing classes. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle this.
Yeah.
And like, it wasn't painful, but it was just uncomfortable cramps.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I was just like, but I didn't want to bother Ryan because I was like, it's going to get worse. And then I'm going to need him. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, can I go to the bathroom, nurse? And she's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So then they let me go to the bathroom because they had to unhook me from everything. And I'm like, oh, God, it's so embarrassing. So then I'm coming back and Ryan's awake. He's like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, I'm just starting to feel contractions. He's like, oh, okay. Are you okay? I'm okay right now. Okay, here comes one. And he's like, okay, what do you need me to do? I'm like, I have no idea. Not a clue. He's like, okay. And so
I love how you're like so embarrassed. Like, can you tie this? That was so cute how you did that. And Ryan's probably like, I've seen every part of you.
Yeah, he's like, oh, God forbid I see your back. Oh.
I'm naked like 90% of the time.
But like, I walked into the hospital naked. Like, let's do this.
Clothes were off pretty quickly, yeah.
So then I'm like getting the contractions, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. So I'm just kind of like, can I try one of those ball thing. She's like, yeah, that's probably going to help. Like, let's get you on the ball. Just kind of bounce. Get Dad over here. So they put like a cloth on the ball. And then Ryan's behind me kind of rubbing my back. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, oh my God, Ryan, I think my water broke. And he's like, oh my God, okay. So we call the nurse. I'm like, I think my water broke. And she's like, okay, let's check you. Great. She's like, honey, you just peed. Perfect. It's like, of course. And I was like, so sorry. So sorry for bothering you. So at another point, I was like, okay, Ryan, I'm pretty sure this is my water. He's like, okay. So the nurse comes back. I just have a real bad problem peeing myself, apparently. And she's like, it's completely fine. Like, the baby's on your bladder, completely normal. I'm like, of all the birthing stories I've heard, never heard this issue. But thank you. And so at like 5:30, I was like shaking. At 5:30, I got the epidural because they wouldn't check me before because I wanted them to check me. Because I was like, that's only like 4 or 5 last time. What if I'm only a centimeter more? Like, I don't want to be a little bitch. And she's like, honey, you're having a baby. And I'm like, I know, but like, my friend had all 4 of her babies natural. And if I go back and tell her this, like, she's probably going to laugh at me. And I can't risk it. But she's like, the anesthesiologist, that's what they're called. I'm pretty sure. She was already in the hall or something. And she's like, so if you want it, let us know. We'll do it right now. I'm like, can you check me? And she's like, we can check you after. This is stupid. Okay, whatever. Because I wasn't in pain, but I was worried I would get to the point where I was like, I wish I would have done that.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, let's just do it. So they gave me the epidural. And then I didn't know they had to lift you so high on the bed. Like, that thing just kept going up.
Yeah, I did.
And I'm like, wow. Oh, here we go. And she was like, Dad, stay in front. And he was like, kind of in front, but the nurse was in front holding me. And then they were like, okay, like, just deep breath, breathe in. And then they stuck it in, like, kind of jolted. And they were like, honey, you cannot move. I'm like, I'm going to paralyze myself. Oh, my God. I'm going to be the reason. I can't walk. Oh, my God. Can't even blame it on the nurse. It was my fault. And so they put it in, and then I only felt it on my right side. And I'm like, okay, perfect. I'm going to be one of those girls. Just only on my one side. Feel everything on the other. Perfect. She's like, just lay on your left side, and it'll help it. And I'm like, okay. So I do that, and then it was helping. My voice was fine this morning.
It like lingers around, especially when you're talking. You're just like tickle.
You get so dry too.
Yeah.
Talking. Like when we did our stories, we were like, I didn't feel like I ate sand or something.
I know. So much.
Like, I thought it was salt on the margarita, not sand. But, okay. But then I was like numb. I'm like, this is cool. Like, this is fine. I'm not going to feel anything. And I don't have to get up and pee. Because I've been getting up every 10 minutes since I was 7 months pregnant. So I was like, this is super cool. I like this. Can I bring this home? And then they were like, okay, so they had me like, I don't know, on one side, on another side, with the peanut ball. And then they're like, can you get on your hands and knees? I'm like, can I? I can, sure. Because I'm a people pleaser. And God forbid, I tell them no. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let me just get my fat ass up and flip. Yeah, we'll do that. So I'm like trying to do it. And they're like,
It's such a narrow bed too.
Yeah.
Yeah, those beds are tiny.
I'm like, I don't even, do you have another bed I can roll onto?
Yeah. It's like trying to like move in bed when you're 9 months pregnant. You're like 1, 2, 3, 4, almost there.
So I finally get on all fours. I don't even remember like why. I guess it was try to get it to progress. I don't know. And when I got the epidural, I was at an 8. And
Wow.
yeah, she was like,
You're doing
honey,
awesome.
you were this
That's
close.
really
to
far
not."
along.
And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Glad I made that decision then. And so then I was like, they had me lay back down and just kind of wait it out. And they have like their doctor come in with like this thing they unroll, and it's just all these metal objects. And I'm like, what is that? She's like, honey, we're getting close. And she just walks off. And I'm like, I was like, Ryan, go tell me what's on the table.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, I don't
A
don't
silver
know.
thing, another silver thing.
He's probably like, I work on gutters. What do you want? I could probably use that tool. I don't know. And so I was like, okay, all right, that's fine. It's fine. I don't feel anything. No, it's fine. And then I just was shaking uncontrollably. And like I said, Ryan, huge heart, never cares about anything, like never gets worried enough about anything. But he was like, why is she shaking? What's going on? Is she okay? Like, I was like, oh my God, he cares. They were like, it's the epidural, it caused her to shake. And he's like, okay. And then at, like, I don't know, like 8 or 9 at this point, and one of the nurses kept, so it's completely normal if you push 3 to 4 hours. First time mom, completely normal. And I was like, that sounds horrible. I don't want to do that. Please don't make me do that. And they were like, it's going to be completely fine. I was like, okay, all right. And so at 11:10, they were like, let's start pushing. And I was like, let's do it. How do I do it? They're like, just kind of push down. And I'm like, I cannot feel anything. They're like, you just kind of go through the motions. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's do this. They're like, okay, ready? Sure. They're
Ready?
like,
Okay.
They're like, push. I'm like, okay.
Am I doing it?
Yeah.
Is it working?
They were like, oh my gosh, great push. I'm like,
Cool.
yep, absolutely.
It is such a weird thing. Like, you never know what you're going to do. You just do it.
Yeah.
They're like, no. Or, yeah, cool.
Yeah. They're like, you're doing great. I'm like, I'll just keep doing this then. Thanks. And then I didn't think Ryan would watch, but I didn't know. And we never really talked about it. Like, he would always, I would jokingly, like, I don't want you to watch. And he'd be like, no, it's not like he can do much. I'm like, okay. And so I couldn't even tell you how many people were in that room. Nothing. Like, epidurals don't make you drugged, but man, I felt drugged. I was like, it was crazy.
Yeah. Just
And-
birth.
Yeah.
All the hormones.
Mm-hmm.
You get in like labor land.
Mm-hmm.
Labor,
You're like,
I
what is
that.
going on?
Yeah.
And like, so I start pushing at 11:10, and then it was like 11:20, and I was like, dang, we missed 11:11. That would have been cool. Ryan's like, do you really think you're going to push the baby out? Like, he probably wants to divorce me so bad. He was like, you're doing great. And he's like rubbing my hair, and I'm like, oh, wow, nice. Okay, yeah. And he's like, you got this. You okay? And I'm like, I don't feel anything. Yeah, I'm good. Let's do this. And he was like, okay. So he's like holding me like up so I can push, and she's like, oh my goodness. Oh my, a full head of hair.
Aww.
And my mom was redheaded. I have red hair, like tints of red hair. My
Mhm.
brother's got a red beard. And then Ryan's got red in his family. So we were just assuming like she was going to come out redhead. Like that was it. And so they were like full head of hair. And then I was like, Ryan, what color is it? What color? And he's like, black. It's so black. And I'm like, oh my God. And they were like, do you want to look, Mom? And I'm like, do I want to what? I'm like, do you want to look? We have a mirror. And I'm like, oh, do I want to look? Oh, I don't. I don't know. Okay, yeah. And so she's like, okay. And they pulled down this like mirror. They had like a tarp over it. Like it was a magic show. They're like, ta! And I was like, wow, that's me. Wow. And she was like, okay. And I was like, oh my God. I shit myself. I was like looking at Ryan. It was like, what? And I'm like, we're going to talk about this later. So they like push, and I'm like, okay. And oh my God, that is the craziest thing to see. I don't know if you guys, it
I
was
did
like,
not watch.
oh, it was nuts. Like, I watched it for like maybe 2 pushes. And I was like, wrap it up, we're done. Like, go ahead and throw the tarp over, we're done.
I can't even remember if I had a mirror. I feel like maybe I did, but I like, there's like no remembrance of that.
I'll never get that image out of my head.
You saw it.
I feel like I was maybe offered one with Arthur with my first, but good Lord, yeah, I don't remember. I remember them being like, reach down, you can touch his head. And I was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I do remember that part of
Yeah.
like, reach down and put it, the mirror thing. I'm like, there could have been a mirror, but there also could have not been a mirror. I'm wondering about that now. Got me thinking.
Yeah. They asked me if I wanted to like feel, and I'm like, nope, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, I'm fine. And then she was born at 11:50. Oh, they broke my water. Yeah. So they finally broke my water. And like I said, I'm the only girl in my family. I have no idea. Like, Hannah told me about her water breaking, but like, I don't know. In my head, it was like spilling a bottle of water. So they're like, we're going to break your water. I'm like, okay. And I didn't know they had like a tub thing under me. And Ryan's just like looking at everything, just like, what is going on? And they're like, okay. And they get that little crochet needle looking thing. And they're like, I'm like, what? Okay. She's like, just real quick. We're just going to, find it. And I'm like, she's going to find it. Okay. And she's like, oh. And it was like, whoosh. And I heard it.
Yeah.
Like, Ryan's like, that's a lot. She's like, honey, we're going to need to switch your sheets. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. I'm like,
there is a crazy amount of water in there.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like a little water bottle, but apparently it's like
a huge water balloon.
A small pond. Like. And so I started pushing at like 11:10, and she was born at 11:52 in the morning. So I was in labor or in the hospital, whatever, from 11 p.m. They started Pitocin at 1. And I had her at 11:52. And they just put her on my chest, and I was like, wow. Like, wow. I don't even know what to think. Like, I don't even, like, it didn't, even though I just pushed that baby out and literally saw it, it did not click. Mm-hmm. And I just thought it was going to be instant that I was like, oh my God, this is my baby. Oh my God. Which, she's my baby. Mm-hmm. And I know that, and I love her, but it was just such a weird thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Ryan immediately, head over heels, just obsessed. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they're like, okay, we're gonna go where, okay? All right. They're like, 7 pounds, 14 ounces. I'm like, what? They're like 20 and a quarter inch long. I was like, 12. I'm 5'2". Like, I don't know where that came from. No. And they did the whole footprint on Ryan's hand, and he cut the cord and all that. And then we go, or they, take her, do her stuff, and then, I don't know, it felt like 5 minutes later, but I think it was like an hour or 2 later, they were like, okay, we're going to go ahead and take your, well, I guess it was like an hour later or something, because they were like, we're going to take your epidural out. And I was like, am I going to feel like pain instantly? How does this work? She's like, well, no, I mean, it's going to wear off, and then you'll feel, I was like, okay. And she's like, do you want to hit it one more time? I was like, yeah, I'm scared. She's like, okay. So then they like take it out, and then I slowly started to feel things again. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I tore and had to get 3 stitches. So I was expecting me to be in excruciating pain, but it wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
And then they were like, okay, we're going to go to the bathroom, Mom. I'm like, you want me to get up? Oh, okay. So I'm like, okay. okay. I'm walking to the bathroom and she's like, I gotta pee in front of this girl that's just like getting the stuff together. Like, I'm not about to pee next to her, but okay. And she's telling me like how to take care of everything and do the little ice pack deal. She's like, go ahead and just, you can use this, with your little string underwear, stupid elastic.
Oh, the
whatever it
mesh
is.
underwear?
Oh,
Yeah.
God, I think it's miserable.
They go all the way up to right under your boob.
It's ridiculous. And I thought I was self-conscious when I got to the hospital, walking out in them things. I'm like, with the ice pack. Oh, man. I'm sure Ryan was.
Sexy.
Oh, yeah. So then they're like, okay, we're going to take you to your room. I'm like, oh my God. I thought I was like, okay, yeah, okay, let's go. They're like, okay, you want to hold the baby? I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to hold her and you're wheeling me? That sounds dangerous. Okay. And so Ryan's got like 17 bags. They're like, we can get a cart because like I knew we were going to be there for like 3 days. So I packed for like 17, just in case.
Just in case.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to need.
Right.
Or Ryan was going to carry all this stuff to the room, like 3 floors up or whatever, wherever we were. I'm like, I'm sorry. And then we get there and I don't know, it was like 2 hours later. And it must have been into shift because this girl was miserable. And she just walks in and she's like checking Leah and she's like, nobody told me she had a heart murmur. And I'm like, what? No, nobody told us. What does that mean? And she's like, nobody tells me nothing, and walks out. So I was working at a car dealership at the time. Ryan installed gutters. We had no idea what that meant. And I'm like, okay, all right, that's fine. And then they finally come back in. And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, so sometimes when babies are born, they're like a valve doesn't close up right or something, and it causes a murmur. But it's completely fine. She's going to be okay. It'll probably close up on its own. They're going to do an echo on Monday. This was Saturday.
Mhm.
I'm impatient. I'm freaking out. Ryan's, being Ryan and trying not to freak out because I'm freaking out.
Mhm.
And they're like, we're going to do the echo on Monday. Like, we pricked her foot and all those numbers are fine. She's okay. We're like, okay. And then Ryan's like, Katie, if it was bad, they wouldn't wait until Monday. They'd be doing it now. And I was like, okay, good point. All right.
Yeah.
So, we're taking care of this newborn baby. No idea what I'm doing. Not a clue. And they were like, let's try to breastfeed. Okay. And so they like put her on me and they're like, oh, great latch. Like, perfect. Okay. Awesome. And then they just kind of walked out. I'm like, how long do I do that? Do I switch? Do I just, like, put this one in my back pocket and save it for later? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, is she going to quit when she wants to quit? I don't know what I'm doing. And so I'm, like, looking at Ryan, like, he knows, like, his boobs have done this. He's like, is she getting anything? I'm like, I have no idea. How do you know? I don't know. He's like, I don't.
Yeah, it's hard.
So my anxiety is already off the charts because I'm like, what if we're at home and I don't know if she's eating? He's like, I see your point. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't. I don't know what to do. And so then they took her to the nursery at one point and they're like, you guys go ahead and rest. I'm like, okay. So then it felt like 5 minutes later, they came in to push on my belly and they're like, Mom, we're going to push on your belly and then we're going to feed, okay? I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. And then she like pushes on my belly and then I fall back asleep. And she's like, honey, we got to feed. And I'm like, right, I have a baby. Oh my God. I'm like, great, I'm a horrible mom already, okay? And she latched for an hour and a half. And like, I'm switching, I'm crying. She's like, why am I not getting anything? I don't know what she's thinking.
Yeah.
And Ryan's like, that seems like a lot. That's like a long time. And then the nurse was like, oh, just take her off. She'll be okay. I'm like, okay, so what do I do? She's like, oh, just put a binky in her mouth. I'm like, okay. Sure thing. I don't know what to. Okay. And she's like, your milk isn't even in yet anyway, so it's okay. I was like, okay, all right. And then it was Monday, they said that she did have a heart murmur. It was like 16 m whatever measurements. And it was at 16. And to do a follow-up in 2 months. So we go see her pediatrician 2 days after.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, do you hear anything? And she's like, I saw that she's got a heart murmur, so let me listen. She heard it, and I'm like, dang. I was hoping it would close up. And so then she lost weight. So we go back the next week. She lost more weight. We go back the next week. She lost more weight. And I'm like, perfect. And like we had decided pumping would be best for me because I was freaking out about how much she was eating, if she was eating. So we were like, we'll just pump and bottle feed.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our game plan. And it was fine. It was horrible because I was waking up every 3 hours to pump and feed her because I felt bad to wake Ryan up because he had to go back to work like the next week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I don't want to wake him up because he's got to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like trying to do it, but then I'm pumping and then she's crying and I'm like, can't hold her and pump. And it was rough.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ryan just started, like, he would hear her and he would just come in and feed her or whatever needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And then they told us to kind of get formula in there to help with the weight gain. So we started doing that. And then she was back up and good to go. We went to her follow-up for her cardiologist in March. And it was at 16 and it was at 40-45. And in my head, it wasn't going to get worse. It was either going to close up or stay the same. And it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm crying and I'm freaking out. I don't know what's going to happen. Our doctor, I've since switched doctors. He has horrible bedside. And I was just done.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, so it's at 40-45, but if you didn't know something was wrong with her, would you know? And I'm like, if you didn't know my mom had cancer, would you know? Okay, yeah, see, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you didn't know that my mom had cancer? I didn't know she had heart. Like, it does nothing. It's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so then he's like, I want to see her in 2 months. So we go at the end of May. And it was he told me 50. I got the test results on the app. And it said, or I got the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And it said 55. And the test results said 58. And they want to do the procedure at 60 to open it. And so I called, and I'm livid. It's like 2. I texted Hannah to make sure I wasn't reading it wrong. I'm like, can you ask one of your nurse friends? Look it up. Let me know before I go yelling. Just want to know. She's like, you're reading it right. Perfect. All I needed to know. So I switched doctors, and then the new doctor told me the symptoms to watch out for, like if she's drastically more tired, eating less, falling asleep at the bottle, and she had been falling asleep at the bottle. And I was like, I called and I was like, she's teething, but like, I don't know. It's one of the symptoms, so I'm just calling.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, okay, that's fine. You can come in. So we went in. It was last week. And he was like, so it's at 63. We're going to go ahead and schedule the procedure. So she'll be getting the procedure done July 28th. And then she'll be good to go. They're going to go in through the groin and with a little balloon, like blow it up, and she's good to go. So thankfully, that's it. But I'm going to be a mess.
Yeah.
What do the numbers mean?
So she has pulmonary valve stenosis, and the valve to her heart, from her heart to her lungs, is closing. And so I don't really know what the numbers mean, but it's like percentage, like 60% closed
Oh, okay.
type deal.
Okay.
So I was like, the first cardiologist, I was like, what's going to happen if it gets to 90? He's like, it won't. But if it does, it won't.
Mm-hmm.
But if it does.
Yeah.
And he's like, we do the procedure at 60, so we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but you lied to me about the numbers, so I don't trust you. So I switched doctors, and I like him. He's really nice. He answered all my questions and the stupid ones. He made me feel really good. So I'm like, okay, we're good.
That's good.
And she's been sleeping through the night since she was a month old. Once we got that formula, she was good to go.
Fill them up.
I quit pumping at 2 months because I went back to work to put in my 2 weeks to start a new job. And I was tired and just exhausted from it. It was just taking a toll on me anyways.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want to have to go to a car dealership full of guys and ask my general manager, who was a guy, like, hey, where do I pump? Because I've been at that dealership for 5 years. I know all the ins and outs, and there was no place to pump.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't want to ask him, have that conversation. I'm leaving anyways. So, and then I started a new job. I didn't want to start the new job and be like, oh, okay, yeah, where do I put my lunch? And can I put my breast milk in there? Okay, great. So then she sleeps through the night. And one night, we just had a horrible night. She was just losing it. And like the screaming where she just couldn't breathe. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, I don't know what we need to do. So when in doubt, I call Hannah because she's got a baby, 6-7 months older than mine. So she's just been through this, and she's probably tired of my calls, and she's probably going to block my number. Hannah, don't do that. So I texted her, and I was like, hey. So she's crying, and I thought it was a glistening of the light, but I looked, and she's got 2 teeth, it looks like. So I'm just gonna, and I sent her a picture, and I'm like, am I tripping? And she's like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, so it's real. She's like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, no, she can't hold a teether, so I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And all the Tylenol and all this stuff is don't use under 6 months or whatever it is, or the weight. And I'm like, so she can't use any of this. And then Hannah sent me this thing. Her doctor had sent her for all the dosages for every age. And I was like, oh, thank God. So now that was right before she turned 2 months. She got 2 teeth.
2 months?
Yeah. When she turned 2 months and we were taking her pictures, we have the board, I have this many teeth. She had 2 bottom teeth.
Holy cow.
And she turned 6 months on the 8th. And she's got 4 bottom teeth. And she's got 1 top tooth coming in. And it looks like the other one might be.
Oh my God. That's so early.
That's so early. Wes didn't get a tooth until 12 months. Almost a year.
Yeah. You
He
were
was
always like,
so
he's
late.
teething. I'm like, I don't see any teeth.
He's cranky. I'm like, you gotta be teething, right? That kid was a late bloomer.
Any advice you have for new moms, or?
I do want to say, single moms, I don't know how they do it. I have no idea.
No clue.
If it wasn't for Ryan and just the whole tiny village that you get,
Yeah.
I don't even. Ryan just does so much, and if I need a break, he's right there. It's not like he's babysitting; it's his kid, and he never. I don't know. He just is always there to take over if needed or give me a break. And he doesn't complain about it. Nothing. He's just there and happy to be there. He's a very involved dad. He's the best dad, and postpartum depression. That's what. I had no idea it was going to be the way that it was.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be I want to hurt myself. I want to hurt my baby. But it was just, for me, anyways, I was just I don't feel like I'm connecting with her.
Mm-hmm.
I could see Ryan with her. And thankfully, Hannah told me, like, kind of how she was feeling, so I was kind of prepared. But I was like, Ryan, I just feel like I'm not connecting. Like, it's just not there. And he's like, well, do you want to feed her more? Like, I don't, but I couldn't feed her because I was pumping every time she was eating. So I was a mess. And he was like, Katie, she loves you. You're her mom. Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I don't know. You just have a great bond with her. I don't have that. And he's like, talk to your doctor and just see. And I'm like, postpartum depression, though, is like where you like want to hurt your baby or yourself. And I don't want to do that. None of that. And he's like, maybe just, I don't know. Do you want to talk to somebody? And I'm like, I don't know. And then my doctor's like, yeah, honey, yep, that's what that is. I'm like, okay, well, movies just really do not do it justice because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Hannah, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Even that checklist that they make you do or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, have you been crying uncontrollably? I'm like, no. Have you been, wanting to heart? And I'm like, no. Hey, I guess I don't have any of this. And lo and behold, everyone's symptoms are different. So,
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
it
comes in like so many different forms. You just never know what you're going to get.
So kudos to the single moms. Circling back to that.
Yeah. Shout out to them for sure.
Couldn't do it. They're the real MVPs. They do it all. I cannot.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Katie, for sharing your story.
For photos and more information on Katie, check out our website. And you can also find links to the show notes and to follow Natalie and I on Instagram and Facebook. And there will be links in the show notes to some resources there as well.
If you'd like to share your story with us, head over to our website to fill out our guest intake form, and we'll be in touch with you. We love birth stories of all kinds, so don't be shy. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.